so I'm not worried about it.
Cool. Get to have a whole week, but hey, after the summertime, we'll get there. So welcome everyone. So good to see everyone. Thank you for tuning in. And if you're here, you're in the right spot. Well, you can say either fate or destiny. I don't know. I guess it depends on your point of view. But anyway, whether it be fate, whether it be destiny, we are here and we are enjoying it. And let me turn that down because, you know, Nina, this is really where you actually can time travel. I mean, it's,
I
you
know.
know, yeah, it's weird. You know that. So everybody, yeah, this is Monday. I know that typically we meet on Wednesdays, but you know, we're flexible. So we're here and we're going to be talking about a great topic, one for mine. So Nina, welcome, my dear. How have you been? Good to see you.
I'm doing good. Yeah, thanks for having me on again. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I think this is an important topic for our time. It really is. And as you and I were talking before we went live, by the way, to speaking favor over us all, nothing missing, nothing broken. And Mondays are prosperity days. So, you know, there's something to the name it and claim it. I mean,
Yes.
my attitude is that if it's out there just waiting to be claimed, okay, I'm not going to be bashful or shy. I'll go, and if necessary, Nina, I'll get a second helping. But anyway,
There you go. I'll grab some
absolutely.
of that too.
Yeah, I like prosperity, and
Yeah.
it's really interesting statistically. When you look at it, depends on what your point of view is. That you know we actually went into the Second Great Depression in 2009 officially. Unofficially, that never happened. You know, we went into a recession and then Obama came and everything got supposedly better. And then we find ourselves here today. But anyway, the point is that we live in a time where things are, I guess the best way to say it is that it's like we're suddenly walking on quicksand because nothing's stable. And everything in the world today, it just seems to be becoming more unstable. And when you talk about the topic that we're going to get in, by the way, hello, everyone in the chat room. Thank you, moderators. Y'all are just beautiful. Hey, Bess, what's happening? Good to see you. There are a lot of people I haven't seen in here before, Nina.
Oh, good. Yeah. So yeah, we're getting a new crowd coming and
I love that. Blue
that's good.
Night Grinner. I like that 2.0. Good day, y'all. Yeah, sounds like someone's from, I would say, from down under. But
Sounds
actually,
like
you know, maybe we're the ones down under. I mean, I know what the perspective
it
is,
all
but
depends on how you look at it, isn't it?
exactly. I mean, I often thought about this, and I know we're digressing for the subject matter, but yeah, maybe not. But how the hell do we think that, you know, just because we say this is north, that somehow we're orientated to a north in a galactic center? I don't know. If I was flying in space, would I know if I was flying upside down or right side up?
I have no idea.
You know, you can look at that Australia and go, well, you know, I think it's actually on top of the world. But anyway, thank you
I
all
think
for tuning in.
Isn't Australia bigger than North America? I'm not even sure. I don't even know.
I think it may be.
It's
Yeah.
pretty big, but it's just that it wasn't discovered until later, so we consider it lesser.
Yeah, and you got it, you know, the whole history of Australia, you know, you had
Yeah.
the original people, you know, they've been there for it is said that the first pharaoh of Egypt was actually a woman, and she actually traveled down there to meet with the Aboriginals.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. She
Yeah,
never
it's
made it
interesting
back.
when you look at our history. I mean, going back to Australia, we shipped all our prisoners off,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
England
that
did.
was it.
You
Yeah, I
know, like
mean,
it's like
what?
when you look back to all the things that we've done, never mind going back to Christianity and how it came about. That is one thing that I really want to bring to people's attention, because I think we've forgotten already. We have forgotten, especially Christians, how it came about. And so I'm going to be doing that on my channel. We got a new read and discuss coming up here next month, and
I'd join you in that. I think that's a conversation, in fact,
yeah,
that it needs to be talked about, because like Australia, what the Crown actually did was they thought they were exiling these people to a death.
right.
It
No,
turned out just the opposite. It gave them freedom.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, you and I were just talking about the physical labor aspect. I mean, I've been doing a lot of it, but this is alchemy in action. I mean, you see it's good for you. It's good for your soul. I think it's good for you mentally. I've been able to go to places, they say that, if you're daydreaming, or if you get so intense in your concentration and you're doing something that's pretty much routine, that it's almost a form of lucid dreaming.
Yeah, it's definitely meditation. A
It
lot of people
is.
think that you have to sit in some lotus position and, and whatever. But no, you're meditating all the time. Daydreaming, that's meditation. That's what it is.
It
It's just
is.
that, in school they suppress that. Nowadays they'll call you, oh, you got ADH, or
Yeah, I'm gonna put you on speed.
skills, and like,
Sure, yeah.
no, you know,
I was like,
yeah,
yeah, it makes perfect sense. Like, yeah.
yeah.
But it's true. I found it very, very soothing, very therapeutic.
Mhm.
I mean, there is definitely a skill that, particularly in different disciplines. But, I started early in life as a drywall finisher. I was a union drywall. I was a journeyman. So
Oh,
learned
there
the
you go.
craft really well. But
Yeah,
the other thing was, Nina, is that once you learn that craft, and I never realized at the time, but wow, it was intense meditation, because
yeah.
yeah, anyway.
Once you know what you're doing, yeah, you can just kind of do it without,
Mhm.
I hate to say it, but sometimes driving is that way. Once you know how to drive, and sometimes you wonder, like, how did I even get here? You were like meditating the whole time, so-
Shirley says she meditates while crocheting. I could see
oh, there
that.
you go.
I get
Yes.
totally, yeah,
Housework. Yeah,
yeah,
I do that too, like
yeah,
vacuuming. You don't need to your brain too much on that one. Great time to meditate for sure. Yeah, dishes, all that stuff. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I love it. I love it. And
Mm,
you get a great tan at the same time. So
mm.
what's wrong with that? Put on some good music and there you go.
Yeah.
So Nina, JD is under the weather. Interesting idiom, isn't it?
Yeah.
Under the
What's the
weather.
weather got to do with it? But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, think about that. Yeah. That's like state of the art.
Right.
What the hell does that really
Now, where
mean?
did these things come from? I much
Yes.
wondered.
State of the art of what? You know? Never figured that out. But anyway, he's under the weather,
Yeah.
which I guess is to assume that it's stormy weather, would you say? Cloudy?
Or I think they associated cold weather with having a cold, or getting sick.
Yeah, yeah,
I remember
yeah.
my grandmother like, oh, you got to close the windows. You don't get a draft, so you don't get, sick. So I
Hmm.
think that may be where the whole under the weather is. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I can dig that. Anyway, JD is not with us. JD, we send our love to you and look forward to having you back on when you feeling better, man.
Mhm.
Get out there and do some workout, man. I just tell you, get into the,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That's all I can say. It's like, it's cool. But anyway, Nina, um, our topic, can Lucifer succeed where Jesus has failed? This is one topic that, particularly where I live, I mean, this is, conservativeville. It's Christendom everywhere, and you find the people that it's interesting. You see a certain independence, a little streak, but then you see a large conformity. But everything here is centered around Jesus. Jesus is going to come save us from all this. Jesus is the one that will help. It's the question. Lynn and I were approached by someone and says, is Jesus your Lord and Savior? And I said, no, it's not.
Hell no.
And they looked at me and they said, would you like to know Jesus? I said, well, I did the background check and he failed and he didn't pass.
Exactly. And this is where we need to remind them about how Christianity came about. Let's go back to history and look at that for a second and see how great is this religion exactly.
Yeah, and it dominates and permeates everything. But
oh yeah, yeah.
My contention is that the religion itself, and I say this all the time, if there was a dude that was, his name would never have been Jesus. I don't know what his name would have been, but if he would have existed, the thing that I contend today is that he would reject the very religion that has elevated him to a position of worship.
I do believe he even mentioned that in the Bible.
Yeah, he kind of did, didn't he?
His intention wasn't to gather in some church, the way that they're doing it. Matter of fact, didn't he go up there and whip everybody and tell them to get out of there because they're
the money changers, and yet Christianity is built upon the tax, 10%, the tithe.
Yeah, that's on top of the state,
everything.
Yeah, when I really started, researching back in the day, when I realized that church and state were holding hands, that's when I'm like, oh yeah. Right.
So if he lived, he would not. He would say, "What the hell are y'all doing? What have you done here?"
You would just look at the Vatican, all the gold.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, no.
So, how I look at this is that we have a culture. And, years ago on my channel, YouTube only will carry it back 5 years, but there's material way beyond that. I did a whole thing on the God spell, breaking the God spell.
I remember that. That's actually a really good series.
It was well done. And it validated and showed, that this is a spell.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at, and this is what gets me about Protestantism to Catholicism. You got, because in Catholicism is the left-hand path. Weird, isn't it? What do you mean? Well, because modern day Christianity is a new religion that is actually more pagan in its foundation than anything else. So you have the Protestantism to the Catholicism. The Protestants will say, listen, we didn't have anything to do with all that blood killing and, the conquering, because that's what the Catholic Church did when it came into the New World. You either converted or you died.
That's right.
So this is murder in Yeshua's name, Iusus's name. So Iusus would be associated with the blood god because the blood of millions of innocent souls were sacrificed to this Jesus. But the Protestants will say, no, we had nothing to do with that, really. I mean, we're really kind of the good guys. Yet it's the Protestants that put our people to the stake, who raped and tortured our females, the females of our background, our ancestors, in ways that only a sick mind could only come up with. But this was all done in the name of love.
Yeah.
No one wants to address that.
I know. Even most wars are all because
World War II was a war of Jesus. It was because our soldiers went into, you had all the chaplains, and the chaplains were of different faiths or denominations. And that's weird because I thought it was still the same Jesus. Well, apparently not.
Only if it's convenient, Wayne.
Only if it's convenient. But and today, even our government allows you to have a tax deduction from your earnings if you want to donate to a religion. And my contention is that, okay, I can't find anywhere. I have searched, I have spent sums of money searching, where I have ever read Lucifer or Satan has ever required a human to number one, worship him, two, to sacrifice to him, or three, to cause a war.
That's right.
So the title of the show is, can Lucifer succeed? Because what you get with the background story about this Jesus guy is that he was supposedly to bring love, unity, peace, and harmony to all of humanity. But that's never happened.
No.
I mean, Nina, if in 2,000 years, you would think by then that we would be smart enough to realize that this ain't working.
You would think, yeah. But, the whole religion is all based on fear, right? And
Yeah.
They want to control us. And so people are so fearful after 2,000 years of being beaten in, for that long, that they're basically scared. They don't even want to listen to our show. People are unsubscribing because they don't want to listen to it. They don't even want to entertain a listen. Never mind, and so what do you do with that? It just baffles me that they won't take a look at it. It doesn't mean that you
don't even want to talk about it.
Just a discussion, just something to look at, and yeah. So unfortunately, most people are so brainwashed and under a spell, like you said.
So that means that someone's, in the wheelhouse. Someone's driving all this. And, it's interesting because as I've been working and I've been, building a deck, and then, then there's another building that, anyway, excuse me. Hold on one second, please, Nina.
Okay. All right. I guess it's just me here then, guys. I can see who's in the chat here. Hello to everybody. It looks like we got a full house in here. Make sure that you guys go into the description and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I got a lot of good content there. I actually had one of these episodes up yesterday on my channel, so that's pretty cool. Go and check that out. So I see myself up on there. But yeah, go and check it out. I am starting a new read and discuss here next month, July 16th. I do believe we're going to start it, called Horns of the Goddess. Horns of the Goddess by Dolores Cannon. So this is a book you were like, Dolores Cannon? I haven't heard of this book before. Well, that's because it was just released. This is information that she gathered back in the 80s. And it is going to be about basically as Christianity was coming in. So we're going to be hearing stories about exactly what it was like back there and at that time. So this is going to be very interesting. And I think this is something that people need to understand and be reminded of, how Christianity came about. Okay. And it wasn't really that long ago, honestly. They are the new kid on the block. And we need to be reminded of where we come from, what it was like, the old ways, the old way of doing things. And this is what they're trying to suppress. They don't want us to know natural healing and using plants and all this kind of stuff. That's what paganism is all about. Well, there's Wayne. Hopefully.
Okay, we're back. We're back.
Right.
We're back alive.
I'm glad you're back.
Yes. So I wasn't going to leave you completely hanging. I mean, it's like, geez,
Okay, I can ramble.
You did good. So, and Bubba, well, Bubba is the watchdog. I mean,
Yeah.
The other night, just to give you an idea that we live out in the country, is, I go out on the deck and I can see the furry tails lo and behold, there were 5 little baby raccoons.
Oh, yeah,
You
that'll
know,
get the dog going.
ay, ay, ay. And they're cute. They're really cute. I
I
mean, at
know.
that age, they were like, and you could pet them. I mean, I didn't, but you could.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so anyway, hey, Mary Wins, how's everyone in the chat room? So good to see you. Hey, listen, this is an important topic because we live in a time where division is everywhere. I
Mhm.
mean, everything is divided. I mean, you have to have a political belief. You have to have a religious belief or no religious belief. You have to, be right or left. You always want to be on the side of good, but yet good seems to be as bad as evil because I can't really figure out evil. And as I said before I was interrupted, I can't find where this egregore, because Lucifer doesn't really exist in the sense of a deity, an entity that has a genealogy. We know that Jerome invented him, inserted his name in the book of Isaiah. So that's part of this God spell. I mean, right there, what that man did, and people, I did a whole series on it. And if you stop and think about this, what Jerome did is that he altered the state of consciousness of the Western world.
Mhm.
That's freaking huge.
Yeah.
And then today, this is Demonology 101. We have a complete pantheon, a complete culture of of beings, whether they be angels, whether they be called demons, whatever the name you want to associate it with them, and then they have this whole plethora of personalities, and then it goes further because you want to fill the churches filled, and as you said earlier, with this enemy who's out to deceive you. It's out to steal your soul, out that when you die, you're going to have this hell and what have you.
Mhm.
And then you got the other side that I just have to say, what I see people today in what they call satanic worship, the occult, is to me, well, quite frankly, it's almost morbid, and I don't understand why. Because if what they're saying in modern day Satanism, and I want to exclude Luciferianism out of this because Luciferianism is more than just an ideology. But let's get back into modern day Satanism. Is that and I'll just say, you have a freak show. I mean,
Yeah, you're gonna have the extreme on both ends. You got the extreme with the Christians as
you
well, right?
do. Oh, look at the Pentecostals.
Fanaticals, yes.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then you'll have that on with the Satanism as well. Of course, they're gonna take it completely out of context and just do things that most people don't do, but that's just, there's a small fringe, I guess. Um, you know,
Well,
this.
and it's sad because again, in my quest, in my search, because I grew up for 50 years thinking that this antithesis, the antagonist of the God that I was worshiping, the God that was supposed to save me, deliver me from the enemy, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, I realized I was very bigoted, very ignorant in making that decision because I really never knew who my enemy was because they never taught me that. They just simply said, listen, this is what it's done. Take our word for it,
Yeah. Well, the thing is that, they, the government, whatever you want to call them, a lot of the time they'll blame murders or whatever on satanic rituals in order to continue on with the fear and control. And when you actually go and look back into history, and you might find this kind of interesting with the whole Manson thing, Remember that back in
Oh,
the
yeah,
day?
yeah, yeah. Oh, Charlie in the group.
Yeah, the government, wanted to get rid of the hippie community. They wanted to get rid of the psychedelics. They started to realize that, hey, the hippies are actually onto something. They're using the psychedelics. They're actually tapping into things that they don't want you to tap into. And that's why they made it illegal for the LSD. They got rid of that. And they blamed Manson and the girls on those murders. And turns out Manson had nothing to do with it. I actually just recently did some study on this. This guy has done a whole book on it. And so he was framed for this because to try and get that whole, to just blame it on that. It's,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
and so they're still doing that today. So I'm questioning now everything I see, especially if they have like, oh, those Satanists or was it though? Like, or is it just another one of these blame it on the bad guy? You know, you got to have a bad guy, right? And can continue on with that whole fear so that we can, you know, keep us in line and something to blame on. So
Now, see, that's an interesting point, because if you look at Anton LaVey's book, you know, the Satanic Bible, did a whole series on it. Actually, we read it.
right.
And, you know, the whole thing it starts out with is that, hey, there is no Satan. And that's a true statement. I mean, Satan is derived from the Hebrew word, and it was Satan with a small s. It was never a capital S. And what it means is basically, if you have a person who's an antagonist against you, an accuser, you know, that's the Satanist.
Adversary. I do believe it's in the book of
It
Enoch,
is.
mentioned in plurals. Actually, we all have lots of Satans at
Oh,
our
yeah,
adversaries, right? So
Book
that's
of
where
Job
that
as well.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
that's the thing. But they rolled with it. And then so because they have to have a bad guy. You have to have a good guy and the bad guy. It's always that way. So that you can blame things on that, right? The Christians are always, oh, the devil made me do it. You know, doesn't matter what they do, the devil made me do it. You know, so
Wow. And as you were just saying, the thought just hit me is that, you know, you look at what Hollywood has done, the media and entertainment industry. They have made a freaking billions and billions of dollars in enriching these ideas, because here's what it comes down to. If you believe that there is demons and there's a Lucifer, a Satan, a devil, then what you're saying is that you believe in the Jewish God.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, and there are many Christians in particularly who where I live who say, no, don't believe in no Jewish God. We have our Christian God. Now, that's a very interesting point. Here I am, you know, I thought, well, geez, Steiger, you know, you're kind of a smart guy, but it took me, after I read it, I don't know how many times, that I finally discovered aspect of Paul, this Saul of Taurus. Well, we know his family existed. We know that because it's actually in the Roman record. I mean, they supplied the Roman military with tents. I mean, a lucrative contract. But it always puzzled me, Nina, that because we're talking Lucifer, Jesus. Now, the two of them have to be related. And we'll get into that. But back to this thing with Paul, and I want to get your perspective on this. So in the book of Acts, I've talked about this before, as Paul is in the book of, excuse me, now completely lost the Ephesus. The heck was I thinking? And, you know, he stands up and he's on record and he said, you know, I saw all the gods that you made bust of and whatever. And he said there was one that was dedicated to the God with no name, the unknown God. And Paul says that this is the God that he's worshiping, that he represents. But yet, I thought Paul was Jewish. And I thought that was his whole foundation of his theology, was that there was this bridge from Gentile to Jew but yet he says that he's now worshiping or represents a God that has no name. Well, Paul would have known that the Jewish God had 72 names. So Paul says that he's writing in the name of Christ, of this Jesus, and it was Paul who really promoted this modern concept of a Jesus. But if Paul is bringing out Jesus, then I'm confused, because as you can see where the spell comes in, he comes in and he says, well, this God has no name. What say you?
Yeah, so this is, I guess, where the story's getting a little weird. They're contradicting themselves.
Like, hey, don't both bark at that joint. Would you pass it around, please? Come on.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think we've come to the point now where people like yourself, are actually reading all these books and starting to study all this stuff and really, paying attention now, right? And seeing the holes. They didn't think that we're gonna, because it wasn't that long ago, we weren't even able to read and write. Not really. Not really when you look at it, right?
Yeah.
So all this time they got away with all this stuff because we didn't know how to read and write. And we certainly didn't, thought that we could question things or talk about things like we do now. And so it's very interesting to see people like yourself that are starting to find these little loopholes and a little contradictions.
It is excellent word, right? Because it is a loophole.
Yeah.
Like, what? And I'm lost here because, again, Lucifer, you bring the name up here. We went out an outing and I have a shirt that actually has Lucifer's sigil. Mm-hmm. And no one knew what it was. But nope. I was telling Lynn, I said, it's odd because I said, if people knew what this symbol was, they would be freaking out. Mm-hmm. Because this is their mortal and immortal enemy.
Well, that just shows you how much they know or how little they know about their enemy or the other side, if you will, if you want to call it that, how little they know. They won't even entertain to even know the symbol of it or like.
Yeah. But they'll take it's like you were saying, the belief system, and the reason why we're talking, and folks, this is, if you're new to the channel, I mean, this is where we talk philosophy here, and religion is a philosophy. I mean, any way you look at it, a religion is an ideology, as well. And as philosophers, of which I consider everyone that's in this channel, and particularly those that are, active in the tribe, we're all philosophers. This is what we do. Mm-hmm. And really, Nina, when we come down to this discussion, Jesus, Lucifer, we're really talking about a state of consciousness, are we not? We have the perception that the Christo consciousness is one of love and compassion, but the side of Lucifer is the side of evil and hate and murder. But again, I cannot find where Lucifer in the Bible or in any other writing has ever invoked to what we know of the God of the Bible to extract blood, human blood, or I can't even find where Lucifer harmed the animal kingdom. Now, it's humans that brought that into what modern day sacrificial worshiping is as part of that belief system. But you can't show me its origins ever being that.
And also, like, people seem to think that, there's light and dark, and that kind of thing. Yet Lucifer is the bringer, the light bringer.
The angel of light.
So why is it that you're associating the light bringer with darkness then? Or evil? Like, it's all contradictory.
And then doesn't Lucifer bring knowledge? Doesn't he bring wisdom in his wings?
That's what he stands for. He's knowledge, freedom. We all want freedom. We want the right to speak freely and all that. That's Lucifer. So why would you not want to, like, yeah.
It just baffles me because I know the story. I know it very well. I'm going to have to get Jeffrey Doherty on into this one, because we know the topic extremely well. The fact that the five I wills is supposedly what Lucifer said to God. He said, I will ascend to the north of where your throne is. I will ascend my throne above your throne, yada, yada, yada. But yeah, and it says that, Lucifer stood in the firestones of the Godhead, and his, bones were wrought of the purest gold. And when he spoke, it was speaking of 10,000 angels singing at the same time. That's quite a creature. I mean, I don't see any depiction of that creature depicted in the modern day genre. But that's the description the Bible gives, the Old Testament. I mean, yeah. I mean, and it says he looked upon himself, and then he found sin. That I don't get either.
No.
I mean, if this is the epitome of all wisdom and knowledge, so what that's saying is that if you have wisdom or knowledge, is that what? You are basically self-deceived, ego-driven? I don't understand that.
Well, now that we kind of know what God's all about, and whatever you want to call him, the jealous God, the wrathful God, the one that killed everybody, all the firstborns got, all this kind of thing. Well, I know if I was up in heaven there and I was Lucifer, I would probably take a third of them and get the hell out of there too. You know what I mean? So,
it's like, man, I had enough of this, man. I mean, I appreciate it.
Yeah. This is enough of this freak show. We're going to go and do our own thing,
Like, we got a party over at Nina's. Come on, everybody.
There you go. Come on over. So, when you look at it that way, I mean, to me, I would rather follow the other side, to be honest. I'm so done with Christianity. And
well, and then this is, because this is not a discussion of, in any way criticism. This is a discussion of intellectual thought. I mean, mankind, and I always have a problem with mankind. I look at it as humankind, but however you want to address our species, it seems that unity evades us. It seems that within us, we are incapable of, and I mean globally, and I'm talking about all humanity, of unifying.
I don't think we're incapable. We're just being bombarded every single day. They're promoting either a racial hate or sexual hate, or there's something. They always want us fighting against each other. And it's set up that we're being set up. We always have been. That's the thing. The powers to be 2,000 years ago is the same today. And they're just, pounding it into us constantly with the news, with everything, always being in fear and just, I think humanity, and like when we talk to people, nobody's racist. We're all,
I don't even know what that means. And I know what a bigot is. I get that, but
very seldom do you actually have a person that actually feels that way, I find.
I find most people to have pretty much this thing of live and let live.
Yeah.
It's
forcing us into this, right? Because that keeps us busy, so that we're not doing what we're doing right now, discussing things and reading and studying. They don't want that. They just want us out there fighting stupid little things and keep us busy doing that, and so that we don't actually come across any truth, and stuff like that.
I read recently an article on the internet, what it has actually done for us. Mm-hmm. And the thing is that in one aspect, it has unified us in the aspect that we have now this medium of communication. Now, that in itself is a good thing. Mm-hmm. The unfortunate thing is, and we now know it by statistics, and we have, well over a decade of data now, 20 plus years. it's not turned out the way that we thought it was going to be, this utopian. In fact, the internet has made us more angry, more divisive. It seems like it's interrupted our learning, the development, where it used to be we had to remember numbers. I read recently that the average person today has a vocabulary that is somewhere, I thought it would be into the tens of thousands. No, it's below 5,000. And, and it's reduction.
Humanity,
Thank you, David, very much love to you, brother.
Basically going downhill. The technology that we have that they release to us, which is very little compared to everything that they've been withholding, but yeah, no, the internet and everything that came along with it, our species are, yeah, it's going downhill. People don't know, they don't know how to count, like you said. No, they don't know how to do any of that. They don't know how to tell time. You know, you show them a regular clock, they couldn't even tell what time that is unless it's digital, you know, like, and I know.
And the other thing is spirituality, not religion, but spirit. I contend this, that maybe what the boomers brought to humanity, maybe it will end up being Woodstock. Maybe that will be the moniker that, you know, stamps that forever consciousness into our collective consciousness.
Whole hippie movement, right?
Yeah, that I'm still a hippie.
Boomers. Yes.
Yeah.
So they crushed that. They crushed it with the whole Manson thing, and that was the end of it. You know,
because we don't see no peace and love today.
Yeah, no, they didn't want peace and love. No, that's not good.
No,
that's not gonna help their agenda at all. And so unfortunately, you guys got crushed with that one. But luckily now, and hopefully by speaking about this, people can start to wake up a little bit and see, hey, you know what? Maybe you guys were onto something there, and that we should start bringing. And actually, it is coming back because they're starting, even the mainstream now, acknowledging that the mushrooms, you know, are actually helping with different mental illnesses and stuff like that. So
yeah, PSDs. You know, I mean, it's a fact.
Yeah.
And I've been saying this for some time. I don't watch the general media, but my wife covers it pretty well. And there is still this, there's no stories of love. There's no stories of hope.
I know.
It's like you said, and I don't stream, you know, because that's the big thing, but it's like they've captured our minds.
Yeah, well, with the TV, that was the whole agenda right there. Television. They wanted to tell us their vision. And so basically the last 3 generations, we just been programmed literally to their agenda. And
now this ties.
Yeah, the technology that we have today has not been for our best interest. Everything that they've given us so far since the 40s, it's just been an agenda over and over and over again. The real technology that I believe is coming. I do believe that's
well, I think this is why discussions of Lucifer, I challenge anyone out there, if you're a theologian, if you're a philosopher, if you're just a regular person, if you really think that Lucifer is evil, that you really think that this egregore, because it's a thought form, again, we can't find it in the pantheon. Lucifer was never a part of the Sumerian culture. Now, people can say, make references, well, maybe we're talking about Enlil and Enki, you know, because the 2 brothers, you know, one hated humanity, the other apparently loved humanity. It depends on what your, you know, interpretation of that is. But so if that's, but again, that comes, you have a problem with it. I've tripped more preachers up on the Sumerians. I had one say he says, it's ridiculous that we even have in this discussion. He said the Sumerians had absolutely no impact on modern day religion. And I said, dear Lord, man, you're an ignorant man. I said, you know, you're God. your God of the Bible was invented out of what the Sumerians brought forth.
Yeah. It's very similar stories, isn't it?
It is.
It's always a duality, the bad guy and the good guy.
Bad guy, good guy.
Right? Blue and red, there's always that.
I told you that Saturday that I was out there and Lucifer came calling. I've actually had a discussion with Jesus. It's very interesting because
let's hear about that.
Well, yeah, I was out in the shed and painting. I had a lot of wood I had to paint, and it's interesting. And he said, hey, I'm Jesus, and I said, I don't believe in you. He says, well, I understand. And anyway, the conversation, and that's where he brought out the point, and I don't even think it was a he. I mean, if I find him, it was more neutral than it was anything else. Said that it was never its intent to ever have a religion built around it.
No, it wasn't. I know.
Also that its existence is only founded because we believe in it.
Yeah. So I was going to say, even if whether they existed or not, they do now because we've created it, a thought form.
That's what this egregore Jesus told me. And he said, because he said, here's the deal. He says, I never represented any God. He said that's the point. And I said, well, the Bible, because I could quote it to him. I said, didn't you say in the book of Matthew that you came not to bring peace, but you came to provide, division, that you were said, you told your disciples that when the time is given to sell what they have and buy the swords. And I said, didn't already, your 12 guys, didn't already half of them already be armed the full time? I said, that's the equivalent today of having a posse that, are carrying Uzis, I said, so you talk about the peace, but I said, the problem is, dude, I said, wherever you go, there's bloodshed. There's war, there's division. And he said, that's not me. He says, I exist here. He says, I am consciousness. He says, but so are you. Because, you talk to a Bible theologian, and I consider myself to be one. I know the story. I also know the other story that those who have gone, there's a book called The Search, for the historical Jesus. And that's the problem when you start getting into these other things that actually try to validate this, you run into the same wall. Comes at a point in time. I said, so I dig the fact that, and what he said, Lucifer, he said, in his truest essence is a consciousness of light. And he says, as I am. I said,
he had some gems in there with, the kingdom lies within you. There's a few gems in there that kind of does tell the truth, right? But yeah, no, they took this story, basically it's the same story as Horus and all this other thing.
That's what, exactly. Well, that's why Christianity is a pagan religion. It has no foundation. I mean, the Vatican is thinking about calling another Vatican Council. I think this would be the Vatican, the second one. I
think they're probably getting a little bit scared because I think, I think most of us are agreeing that this they need to be held accountable for everything they did back in the day.
Well, that's the problem. The Old Testament is becoming more of a liability. I mean, I talked recently to a Baptist preacher. I said, the problem is, how are you worshiping a God that says that he is a jealous, angry, vengeful God? And furthermore, how do you worship a God who says literally that he created evil for his own pleasure?
There you go. So I know, and they still go, that's how indoctrinated these people are and how spellbound.
Yeah, you can't find this, where this God of love. I mean, again, if the Catholics, as we know, it was the last Pope that they had but brought a new point, they always bring the Luciferian prayer.
Yes, I've noticed. So, and aren't they saying in there that Jesus was Lucifer's son? Or
yes, Yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
who is God then? Who is God? Is it
I'm
Lucifer?
totally confused. I have to
I
tell
know.
you. I feel
Yeah.
like Jack Benny, Winchester. I
Yeah.
don't know what to believe,
Yeah. That's
Again, because if Jesus is the entity of love, peace, and unity, he's failed. I'll have to do my Trump impression. You're fired. You've screwed up. You've had 2,000 years to accomplish your mission. Apparently, either you're incompetent or you're a liar. Because 2,000, and listen, we have allowed you to morph into, modern day Christendom has over 33,000 different denominations worldwide. So that means you've divided yourself into 33,000 fractals. That wasn't the idea. The idea was to bring unity to this creation. Now, I don't know if we were in a lab or if we were magically, however we got here. So I just have to say the evidence would say we need to fire Jesus. And if his competitor, because that's all you hear in churches is how the devil made me do it. The devil's running over me. The devil is just upon me, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
Well, it would seem like that he's got a winning strategy. We got to listen to him.
Yes.
Because I don't see him asking you to take communion. He didn't.
It's all about the blood with them. Saved by the blood, drinking the blood,
All about the blood. It's a bloody mess.
Blood. Yeah. Yeah.
It's a bloody mess.
It is a bloody mess. And they need to be held accountable, and it needs to go away.
But, and again, maybe this will go viral. I don't know, because the discussion needs to be, we need to have an honest, and now what they'll do, and I've had them do this to me, they'll say, well, we have prophecy. Yeah, from your guy, but if I'm reading the book right, you're going to be murdering about what, 3/4 of us in order to get to your goal. You see, I can't read Lucifer's where he says, I'm going to kill, 5 billion humans.
No.
I don't.
Matter of fact, if you go back and listen, like you did the show on the Satanic Bible, one of the first rules, if you will, that they have in there is not to hurt children. And there's, not to, I don't know if it says not to murder, but, it's very clear, like, so yeah. They're very against that. And so it irks me that people believe that they do, and this is what they have set up, literally a scapegoat, and inverted everything. Pretty much everything is inverted, upside down.
It is. And, the travesty in all this, and this is not, just beaten up on one side. Listen, the world religions themselves they don't have anything to be proud about either.
No, all religions are basically the same. Yeah.
It's
fear and control.
That's one of the things about paganism that I find very attractive is that they really had the hippie mentality. They may have been the first hippies, who knows?
Yeah.
Exactly. Live and let live.
That's why they didn't like the hippie movement, because it's going back to being free and natural and loving and peaceful. Well, we can't have any of that. I mean, that's not going to further their agendas. So that's the thing, and that's why we need to go back to the old ways of and I think a lot of people are kind of getting on board with, how the pharmaceuticals aren't the best. Maybe we should.
Oh yeah. I mean,
so people are starting to kind of, which is all what we were doing back in the day, but they call us witches and all this other evil stuff, but all we were doing is doing natural remedies and healing and all that kind of stuff. That's all it was. That's all.
I stayed at 2 communes in my life. One I lived at for almost 4 months, and the other one was shorter than that. But as I look back, and both of these were outside Taos, New Mexico, we didn't have any weapons.
Mhm.
We farmed, we grew plants, and that I remember one time that there was a couple individuals that had to be asked to go because you could just tell there wasn't the right mixture. But my point was, we lived in unity. It truly was a communal living.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that can be happening today. It taught me a lot as a young, I I was very young, 17. It just but it taught me a lot. It today I look back with great fondness, and the poetry we would read at night.
Mhm.
Yeah, anyway.
I think it's possible, I
And
know.
by the way, there never was a God or a Lucifer or Jesus that was in these discussions. It was just us.
Well, that's the
We
thing.
we
Once
what
you
we
take
did
that
worship, I
out,
guess, was the earth.
yeah, and that's what paganism is all about.
Yeah.
Is worship, well, not wor the
Well,
word
worship is the
worship
wrong
kind
word.
of
Respect, I guess, is the better
triggers a
word.
bit, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
you're
respect.
respecting, the sun, the earth, everything, that because that's what brings us life, and gives us everything that we need, and following the natural cycles, because of harvest and all, that, and that's kind of what we're doing, right? Yeah, instead of going on your knees begging to some wrathful god that, no, we just, and it worked. It was working for us for thousands, maybe millions of years. It's only in the last 2,000 years that all this nonsense has been going on. So that people got to
Yeah.
remember that, that's the thing we've forgotten already so quickly, about, how it all came about. And yeah, I can't wait for everything to just come out in the light. The whole Vatican thing, I can't wait for that to all crumble. And
I think it's collapsing. I
we need
was,
them accountable for the
yeah,
crimes that they've done before and the crimes they're doing now.
yeah. I was just remembering a moment there, the the women folk of of, I guess you can call it a family. That's what communes are. But that's where I learned about talking to plants. They would come out in the morning and the evening and just run their hands through there. And it was a form of laying on of hands is what they were, and just speaking, to the life of which is represented by, the growth. Yeah.
And that's actually scientifically proven to actually work. They've taken a plant, where you do all hatred and see how that it doesn't grow too well. And then the one that you talk to lovingly and whatever, and how that flourishes and everything. So this is actually scientifically been proven that it works now, all this kind of stuff that you just
And that's
talking about.
considered to be almost witchcraft.
That's, yeah, exactly. And that's what we're doing. That's all we're doing. We're wise women who knew how to heal and
That's
do things
just it.
on our
Yeah.
own, right? And rather relying on the government, but they don't want that. And that's why women have been beaten down, because that this is how we've been doing it all along. Well, they don't want that, so
Troublesome 93. You're right. I was back there. I was living back in that moment. They were good days. I mean, today I see where, again, you were right. The idea of a hippie was the fact that we wore it as a moniker. It represented a lifestyle. It represented a consciousness. And it really was this mutual respect. And that's the one thing I remember of, the early 70s. It was, we came out of the Woodstock movement in August of 69, and, we had the Vietnam War going on, and we had a government that was corrupt. I mean, little has changed. But what I don't see today is the love-ins. I don't see where the young people are coming together in unity, where, they could come together. We had music. Music is a great medium, but I don't see that. I don't see that vibe. I don't see that energy. And, listen, I'm not into deity worship at all. I don't worship anyone, but I'll tell you this, I gave the other cat, 50 years, I'm speaking in my life. I think that the other dude or dudette whatever Lucifer may be, I think it's time that humanity just give it a listen to.
Yeah.
I mean,
Exactly.
what's the worst that could happen?
Exactly.
I mean,
Can't
we're
get
going
much worse than it is now. So
exactly. I mean, these idiots are going to church on Sunday and they're planning for a nuclear war or the next, the next bug that's coming out. I mean, and again, who's in the wheelhouse? Nina, that's what I want to know. So it appears to me, and I know people get enraged when they hear this, just relax. It's apparently, again, Jesus has failed at his mission. I didn't use those words. He did. He said, go out and convert the whole world. Well, do you think, I don't remember him saying murder people doing that. Did you, Nina? I didn't catch that.
I think so,
I didn't either,
because I know I lived in Norway, right? I know that we wouldn't have converted to Christianity if it wasn't for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Even though we did, we still are upholding our pagan traditions over there. So
And then look what that religion did to the Mesoamericans. I mean, thank goodness some of those priests, hid away some of the artifacts, but and it's just, I don't understand it. Why the bloodshed? And it's time for humanity. We need to rise above this, Nina. We need to love in is what we need.
Yes,
we really do. And this has everything to do with demonology. Because I'm not buying that these beings are nothing more than blood-sucking, blood-eating, flesh things, and that it's just lust and it's just always gruesome and gory. And, I don't believe that bullshit. If it's an intelligent being, then it's intelligent.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a spiritual intelligent being, then I don't ever see the need to be going into that type of direction, because there's nothing to be gained out of that. If we're all on this spiritual journey, it seems like these beings are on the same journey that we are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, like you're talking lust and all this. All it was is, the church and whatever, they don't want us to have a good sex life, right? That's why they're literally putting women down. Women aren't supposed to have sex at all. We're not supposed to have any pleasure at all. I mean, exactly. In some countries, they were cutting off women's genitals. I mean, so it's not about, just going around and screwing everybody. That's not what it's more of the hippie thing of loving each other, having a normal sex life, having a sex life.
It's simple respect. I mean, and if the thermones are going, I mean, yeah.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that. We're all are sexual beings. There's nothing wrong with having sex, and of course it's got to be consensual and all that kind of stuff. That's not even for a debate, but the church has suppressed all that, especially women. Women aren't supposed to have any sexual thoughts or desires at all, as far as they're concerned. We only do it to procreate. That's it. And that's not natural. Right?
That ain't natural. I mean, but the other thing, I think it's sad, and we got to wrap this up, man. We've really went over. I tell people all the time, I said, you don't need to identify yourself by your sexuality. Identify yourself by your consciousness.
Yes, your actions and stuff like that. That's another agenda by, making us fight each other. So we're so busy. Fighting over identities or skin color, or like, it's just it's ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous, and we're falling for it. So that needs to all go. We should go back to the 60s and do the hippie thing again.
We really should. I mean, I'm looking back when I lived in the Montrose area, again, I was just a teenager, and anyway, but it was never about a person's skin color. Never was. No, I mean,
it never was. It never has been. It's just they make it out to be it. An excuse for us to keep fighting and distracting us essentially away from what they're doing. That's what it's all about. Yeah. So.
I mean, I lost my virginity to a Latin lady. Woof. All I got to say. All right, Nina. Thanks for being on, hon. Y'all make sure to subscribe to her, and you have your show, I think, on Wednesdays, right?
Wednesday, yeah, we got Hump
and
Day
then
message.
on Sundays with
Sundays we got Sin Day. That's right.
Yeah. So thank you, everyone. I'll go back and read the comments. You know, and I hope that you understand that, you know, we're looking for solutions here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's why I do this. I mean, demonology, you know, it invokes all sorts of images, but you know, there's a different way I have to, when we all can look at this. We don't have to look at this as the morbid and the evil and them against the others, because there has to be a position of neutrality. If there's not a position of neutrality, then all of this is in vain.
Yeah, well, you gotta remember, you know, demon, you know, the church literally demonized some beings, and that's what you got to remember. It's not, yes, there are probably good and bad spirits. I'd rather use the word spirit myself, of course, just like humans, there's some bad, some good, but yeah, no, the church demonized, you know, these beings, and so we need to get past that and start looking at it for what it is, you know. And I'm sure you guys are going to be surprised to see that it's not as evil as you think it is. So
I can't find the evil, because the problem is when I read the scorecard, evil is being defined by one side. I'd like to hear what the other side may think of evil. Oh, would that be interesting? The man on the street interview. Well, hello, how are you doing? What is your name? Evil. Well, Mr. Evil, can you tell us what is evil? I mean, wouldn't you just love to hear what the evil has to think of what evil is? Yeah. We might find out that that's where we have our morality going. Oh, crap. Well, Nita, thank you. Hey, Robert V., how you doing? And all the rest of you beautiful people. Thank you for being a part of this discussion. Let's continue it on. I mean, listen, there has to be an answer here. For 50 years, I called on the name of Jesus. And, you know, the name of Jesus was primarily invoked for money, you know, and that's primarily what it was. And then you had the healing aspect of it. But yeah, I mean, and then
Isn't that funny that for 50 years, I bet you Jesus never came to you then, did he? When you were praying to him?
No.
No. But now all of a sudden, now he comes to you.
It's like,
isn't that kind of interesting?
Ain't that a bunch of, you know, hey, listen, I always think about Moses being up on the rock, you know, and apparently this God covers his face and only allows him to see the ass end of his ass, you know. Right. And then if you look at the whole bowing down thing, you're just giving him a blowjob. I mean, that's all it is. All right. Anyway, got to go on that one. Nina, thanks. Love you, dear. We'll see everyone here on tomorrow. All right. Bye-bye.